We have a really good chemistry together. We talk. I really like him as a person.
President-elect Donald Trump revealing that he has consulted with President Obama on some of the cabinet picks. So what are these two talking about together exactly? Joining us now is CNN political analyst and USA Today columnist Kirsten Powers and CNN presidential historian Douglas Brinkley. Great to see both of you this morning. So the president-elect went on a different morning show yesterday and talked about how he is relying on President Obama and looking for some of his input. So let's play a little bit more of that.
I have asked him what he would think of this one and that one. I've asked him what he thinks are the biggest problems of the country, what are some of the greatest assets going forward. And we have a very good dialogue. And I must tell you, I never met him before this, and I never spoke to him before this. I do like him. I love getting his ideas. I would say that, yes, I take his recommendations very seriously, and there are some people that I will be appointing, and in one case have appointed, where he thought very highly of that person.
I wonder who that person is, Kirsten. I mean, is there any evidence of President Obama's preferences in Donald Trump's cabinet picks?
Not really. So, I don't know. The thing about Donald Trump is I think he is open to talking to a lot of different people. That's definitely true about him. And he's even open to talking to people who disagree with him. And I think we saw that even, before the election. The question is whether or not it's really going to influence him. And I think if you look at the fact that he met with Al Gore and then who he chose as his EPA pick, it would suggest that there probably wasn't a lot.
Diametrically opposed.
Yeah,
Al Gore
actually, now maybe Al Gore needs more time with him. But the point is, he couldn't have picked somebody, I think, that Al Gore would have disliked more than the person that he chose. So the question is, over the long term, could President Obama talking to him move him incrementally on certain issues? We don't really know.
What does history suggest, Professor? The interplay between former and then successor presidents?
Well, it varies. When Franklin Roosevelt won in 1932, he didn't even want to see a mugshot of Herbert Hoover. He wanted nothing to do with Herbert Hoover. In fact, FDR said you've got to strip the name Hoover Dam off the dam and call it Boulder Dam because I don't want any monument to Herbert Hoover. And that's after he just beat him. Sometimes it's mean like that. Other times, like when Jimmy Carter beat Gerald Ford, they became absolute best of friends and talked all the time. When Gerald Ford died, it was Jimmy Carter who gave the principal eulogy. So I think what's going on now is Donald Trump's the original birther. Probably the darkest mark on his whole career is the fact that he said Barack Obama wasn't born in the United States. The fact that he could seem to get along with Barack Obama now, take some insights and policy wisdom ideas from him, probably helps Donald Trump settle in a little bit. And Barack Obama has a legacy he needs to protect, and he might be able to talk Donald Trump down on a few things. So it's a useful friendship.
Well, let's talk about that, because obviously President Obama is trying to help Donald Trump, despite that terrible bad blood for the years before the election about the birther stuff. But he's also trying to protect his legacy. But is there any evidence that President Obama will be able to protect his legacy? Because everything that we've seen is completely opposed to that legacy.
Yeah, at this point, like I said, I think maybe over the long term, if they have a relationship, perhaps at another point. But I think, Donald Trump is sort of sticking with the people who brought him to the dance, right? I mean, he's not going to suddenly shift to people who were calling him a fraud and a phony and these kinds of things. Although we'll see what he does with the Secretary of State pick. We don't know what he's going to do. He's meeting with these people. Is he going to actually put them in his cabinet? We don't know. So I still think it's good for Obama to be having these conversations. But look, he's going to have to repeal Obamacare. There's just no getting around that.
There goes that legacy.
Yeah, so I mean, the
repeal is easy. Repeal is optics, right?
Right.
Because you can just write that to new law. It's the replacing part that, by all indications, or growing indications, what's your take, Kirsten, that there's going to be less and less dramatic change than that which was talked about during the election.
And maybe he's been able to move him on some of the key components that are popular among the American people, and the Republicans are basically, there's a fight going on with him right now. Some people say let's get rid of it right away, but a lot more people are saying no, we need to do this slowly. We need to have a replacement, maybe 3 years to transition. So, maybe on that, but he is still going to repeal it. It's just, there's just no getting around it. It's one of his core promises.
And Doug, what does history teach us about whether presidents protect their predecessors' legacy or destroy it?
Well, I think President Obama was looking forward to writing his memoir, spending time in Rancho Mirage in Hawaii, getting his daughters raised. Now suddenly he might be in spring fights. Look, nobody has put more into fighting the climate change issue than Barack Obama. He evoked it in both inaugurals. It means a lot to him. I know for a fact in his post-presidency, he wants to be a climate leader along with Pope Francis. And here you get, Scott Toxic Air Pruitt picked as the head of the EPA. That is somebody who thinks climate change is essentially a hoax. There's no way President Obama is going to be able to fall into a comfort zone with that pick, and I think you'll see the president telling Chuck Schumer and others, that's the position we've got to fight and stop. There's going to be a battle over the EPA.
Look, he hasn't said that climate change is a hoax. We just talked to Chris Collins, who says, basically what they're saying is, sure, the science is out there, but we think the fossil fuel industry is more important. I mean, that's basically what they're saying, that they're prioritizing the fossil fuel industry.
The real problem is that he is really a lackey for the fossil fuel industry. I mean, the New York Times reported on how his office basically took a letter from an oil company and just put it on letterhead of the state and then sent it off.
That's the real concern. Allison and I were having fun with it earlier, debating, what is a denier versus someone who's just an outright opponent to it. But at the end of the day, it's really not about the science for Pruitt. It's been about protecting the industry or doing what he thinks is most important, which is what people are going to have to debate.
Kirsten, Douglas, thank you.
Thank you
very much.
So here's another